Everything in mezzotint, it's a matter of light. If there is no light, there is no mezzotint.
Hello, print friends, and welcome to the 88th episode of Pine Copper Lime, the internet's #1 printmaking podcast. I'm your host, Miranda Metcalf. I release weekly podcasts with people in the print world who are doing something a bit beyond the expected. So please subscribe on your podcast listening app of choice. You can also find Pine Copper Lime on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or at our home at pinecopperlime.com. We also have a Patreon page where supporters can join at tiers starting at just $1 a month, and that helps to keep bringing you printmaking content every week. You can also get thank yous like stickers, mugs, as well as bonus content. Shop Talk with our editor, Timothy Pauschak. These are quick and dirty tips and tricks with our guests from materials, processes, business advice, and general studio nonsense. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can check out the link in the show notes. It's also just totally fine if you don't want to know more about that because times are tough and you just want to enjoy listening to what we have here for free. Well, we want you to do just that too. And if you want to show your love for printmaking to the great wide world, we also have merch of all kinds with fun designs to show your PCL support and make print jokes to confuse and or intrigue your friends and family. So click the link in the show notes and send us some pictures of your PCL swag out in the world. Printmaking forever, shun the non-believers. This episode of Pine Copper Lime is brought to you by Speedball Art Products, who've been offering a diverse range of high-quality products to your practice since 1997. If you've been following along on Instagram, and we really do recommend that you do, you've no doubt seen their newest initiative in the print world, Speedball's Print Posse. Working with artists like Andy McDougall and Lil Tuffy, they've created a brand new line of custom printing inks and additives to push your practice even further. So head on over to Speedball's Print Posse shop at speedballart.com to find out where you can pick up a can of your new favorite color. There's a link in the show notes. This episode of Pine Copper Lime is also brought to you by McLean's Printmaking Supplies. Our editor, Timothy Pauschak, is loving his Suitatsu Rari Hangito 3mm carving knife. Most of us know how to go at a block with a chisel, but if you've ever seen a ukiyo-e block with your own eyes, you know those lines come with a variety of tools, and most importantly, a knife. And McLean's has resources to show you exactly how to hold your new tools to keep your hands and joints safe and comfortable. So head on over to imcleans.com and find your new favorite tool. We also released a new episode of Shop Talk with Daniel Yasa from McLean's with this episode. So be sure to sign up for Patreon and learn all you need to know to get those tools in tip-top shape. My guest this week is Guy Langevin, a mezzotint artist based in Quebec. We'll talk about learning mezzotint before there was a YouTube, how making your own tools creates a deep understanding of them, working with what you have, and the job of the artist. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and prepare to rock a plate with Guy Langevin. Hi Guy, how's it going?
Fine, and you, Miranda?
I'm really well. Thank you for joining me this evening.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So I would have to say this is not the first, but a little bit of a rarity on Pine Copper Lime that I interview someone who's really been requested by the listening printmakers of the world. And it's always fun to do that because I find that I'm rarely led astray as we printmakers, know each other and tend to know people who do good work and are good people. And so I'm really excited to fulfill the wishes of some listeners by learning more about you and just getting to know your practice a bit.
Thank you, and thanks your listeners for proposing me.
So before we dive in and start talking about your work in depth, would you introduce yourself a little bit to people who don't know you already and just tell people who you are and where you are and what you do?
So I'm a 66 years old man, and I learned my art at the college in my hometown in Chicoutimi, and I came to Trois-Rivières to going to the university in the middle of the 70s. So when I step out from university after graduation, I founded a professional artist studio, printmaking studio called Presse Papier here in Trois-Rivières. And I was at that time I was doing lithograph, and I practiced lithograph for years, and then a friend of mine showed me some beautiful prints, curious with the light that I was finding very impressive, and there was mezzotint, so I tried to make it, and I became sick. So I learned mezzotint in the middle of the 80s, in 87 in fact, and I practice it for more than 35 years now. So and I participate to many international exhibitions, and I have made approximately 75 solo exhibitions, and probably more than 350 group exhibition throughout the 45 years.
Wow. So you were saying that you had grown up, it sounds like maybe like a bit of a smaller town. And so how did art play a role in that part of your life? Were you someone who was drawing all the time? Did you have art in the family? How did you end up finding that as sort of your path?
I'm coming from a family, a hardworking family, not involved into art at all. And but I think I was born with I'm a black sheep, I must say, and so I was always curious about drawing, and I was drawing all the time. When I was 2 years old, 3 or 5, I was always drawing and drawing. And after my secondary school, someone asked me, where do you want to go to make studies? And I said, fine arts. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about the métier of being an artist. But I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I'm a one-track mind, so I've made this drawing love, which is quite close to printmaking, and close to the way we do mezzotint. I've drawn all my life, and that's all. There is no artist in the family, no before and no after.
Yeah, because I know that I read a little biography of you, and you said that you came from a family that worked with their hands, though? Am I remembering that correctly?
My father, when he knew that I was going to university, told me, try to do something. Find a job when you will never dirty your hands. And I've done something that he considers not being dirtying my hands in the way he was talking.
Yeah.
But I worked with all my life with dirty hands.
Yeah. Yeah, like inky fingers, right? Like that's that's just part of the lifestyle of a mezzotint artist. Absolutely. So was it at university where you were introduced to printmaking then?
No, not at university. Here, the university is a small university, and the fine arts faculty is a general study of fine arts. There is no concentration, no painting or no sculptures Of course there is, but it's not. You don't have to make a choice. You were learning almost everything at the same time, and the fact that I was loving to draw pushed me into printmaking.
And so you said you did lithography for a while, and then you saw mezzotint and realized it had this capacity for image making, which is just really painting with light almost. It has this.
Yeah.
It is all about the light and the use of light, and so this is a podcast for printmakers by printmakers, but even within that, the world of printmaking, mezzotint is sort of this niche within a niche. So in case there's anyone listening who's maybe new or not entirely sure, could you just describe the mezzotint process so people know as we move forward and we dive into the details, what exactly we're talking about?
Mezzotint, I used to say that mezzotint is the only printmaking technique that has its own soul. It's a green technique. In fact, it's all mechanical. There is no chemical,
right.
Nothing. It's only made by your tool and by your hands. And that's what I really interested in, because as I told you, I love to draw. I love to work with my hands. But there's something else that I love is photograph. In fact, photograph teaches me the light, and drawing teach me the composition of and the making of an image. So mezzotint is just the way I found to join those two things. I draw something that has the light of a photograph, and I don't say it's a photograph. It's not only a photograph. The light is similar. The way we do the light, to explain the mezzotint, we damage, and that's really the thing that we do. We damage the surface of the copper with the tool named the rocker, that's full of little teeth, and it makes up millions of little tiny holes on the surface of the copper. And then we have made a texture, and we cut that texture to create shades of gray. The more we cut, the more we make a little tiny white spot. And so the more you cut, this spot is larger. So it will give you at the end a white spot. So you create, you are almost sculpting the image onto the copper plate. And then you ink it, you wipe it strongly as much as you can. So it's impossible to take off the ink of every tiny hole in the mezzotint. If it's well done, if the mezzotint is well rocked, it's almost impossible to empty it. So we can print it quite easily, but with good tools and with good experience and a good press, because it needs a lot of pressure to sick the ink out of the tiny holes. It seems to be complicated, but it's not so complicated. It's not a complicated technique, technically. It's complicated to the way of thinking the image. You have to think the image differently as any other. It fits with some kind of spirit, some kind of idea, or some kind of understanding the image and the light in the image. For many of us, for the mezzotinters, it's good, and for other printmaker, that's the other way of thinking the image that is good. So for me, it has been, and it's always, a very simple technique.
Yeah.
It's complicated to do it well, but technically it's very simple.
Yeah, it reminds me of what I've heard people say about the sort of the Chinese checkers that are the game Go, and how it's a minute to learn, a lifetime to master.
That's approximately that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it is as you say, this simple idea. You've got a plate that it's so textured that if you were to ink it, it would be completely black. And then you
black.
just add, by smoothing out those ridges, you add what you want to be light, what you want ink to not stick. And it seems
Yeah,
like it should be so straightforward, but it's a completely different way than we're taught
mm,
about image creation, that it's different from drawing. And it's interesting to know that you have that background in photography, because I feel like that probably set a really good foundation, more so than if you had just been a painter or a drawer, to start thinking about looking at an image in light and in gradients of
yeah,
light. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's a everything in mezzotint. It's a matter of light. If there is no light, there is no mezzotint.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me, I don't talk for everyone, but one of the things that I like into mezzotint is that the less you do and the more it gives to the viewer to imagine the rest of the image. So
Hmm.
you have to give some clue to the viewer, not to reveal everything. If you reveal, it's a flat thing. There is no deep into the image. If you just propose, if you evoke more than describe, it's way better for me.
That's a really beautiful point. And when I can see it in your images, when I bring them kind of up in my mind's eye, and also in other mezzotints that I've loved. And this just, it can be really, the image is just walking that line between decipherable and indecipherable.
Mm.
And it seems like a collaborative process between me as the viewer and the
Yeah,
mezzotint, that we come together and we sort of decide what I'm seeing.
and the viewer can see something slightly different that I've done,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfect. It's perfect. It's making his own story about the image. I don't have to give everything to make a diktat about the image.
Mm-hmm.
The viewer can make his own story. His own imagination goes in the image, and it's way better than just having an image. A cat is a cat, for
Right,
example.
right. Yeah, yeah. It makes it such a more dynamic viewing
Yeah.
experience, and so interesting.
Mhm.
So you were saying that you were introduced to mezzotint in 1987, and you were taken with it and decided to pursue the process. But this is, of course, before the internet. It's 3 years before Carol Wax's book on the mezzotint comes out.
Yeah.
How did you go about learning the technique? Because now, people who are interested, they can go to YouTube. There are beautiful videos, a lot of them actually featuring you, showing these just high quality, zoomed in images of the rocker and the teeth and the burnishing. So in 1987, how does one go about learning mezzotint?
Making some mistake. In fact, no. In fact, we had almost nothing to. It took me years to control the technique because there was at the time. It's true that there was no internet, nothing to learn correctly, and nobody was giving master classes or something like that. So we we had to find with enormous difficulty to find the material, a rocker or something.
Yeah.
Lions were making rockers, but we didn't know anything about. So the very first time I've made mezzotint, I used a screw that I cut in half to make some and twisted it. That was too much complicated. But when I found the place to buy a rocker, the price has absolutely not. It was cheap anyway because so much work to do our own tool. And then, for example, my first scraper that I was not a scraper, in fact. It was a line that I shaped into scraper, and I still have it, and it still works.
Oh.
I have many others, but like I said, it's easy. We don't need complicated tools. The only tools that we really want to buy, and it has to be professionally done, is the rocker.
Right.
But the rest is we can do it. I gave a master class maybe 10 years ago in China, and the students, I was explaining the technique and showing the tools, and then I said, "Okay, are you ready? You have your tools?" And they said, "Yes, we will have it soon." And I said, "Why you don't have it?" Said, "Yes, we will make them."
Oh.
And they go to the studio, and they have lines and steel bars, and they have made their own tools in few hours, and it works. They made one to me, a scraper to me, and it's one of my best scrapers now. So
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a similar attitude here in Thailand.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's just like, oh, you need a hole punch, you need a paper tearer, these kind of things that in the United States and Canada, it's like, all right, we'll go to the Takish website, we'll see how much it's going to be. Here it's just like, oh, what is that? Just like a hinge and a sharp edge and some holes? Yeah, we can do that. Like, give us a day. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same, and it's good. When you do that, you understand the use of the tool. You understand exactly what you need with the tool. You understand your tool, in fact. You understand everything about. So I learned my technique like this by making everything. I don't say it's better or it was better than today. It's easier to buy the tools now. It's perfect like this. But it took me years to control the technique. It took me years to understand what was going on the plate, scraping with different angles, not scraping, but rocking with different angles, and how many angles, how many runs, how many of these. So I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of essay, and at the end, I understood what was this technique and what gives the best result to me and for me and for my images, not for my eyes, but for my images, for the direct relation between the images and the viewer.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, that because you had to figure it out from trial and error and get these tools that were specifically made and see them being made, in that process really discovered your own path to it. Whereas now, when someone can just say, here's how you make a mezzotint, or really go about any process, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have an image. You had this very different experience of, well, it was, a more winding path. It was your own. And so you have all of these probably minutiae of particularly Guy specific techniques. Yeah. Oh, how interesting. Yeah.
And that's why when I give master classes now, often students or artists ask me, how many runs?
Right.
I said, I don't know how many runs. It depends of many things. the gap between the strokes, the number of teeth, the angle, what you want to do, what you want to create. So I can't tell you a recipe. There is no recipe for making. Of course, we can give a recipe, but everyone will do the same. It's boring at the end.
Yeah. Everyone's
So
mezzotints would look alike. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So in terms of your, actual process in making your images, it's one of the things that you've said that I love is that the human body is the very best way to speak to humans about humans. And the human form is a strong theme in your work.
That's the only one.
It's the only one, yeah.
Yeah.
I almost was thinking only one, but then I was like, maybe he has a piece I haven't seen. Yeah. So,
Maybe two or three in 45 years.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, but human body. It's not human body is not the theme in my work. Human body is the tool of my work. It's the way I found to speak, to talk about beauty, about ugliness, about time, about movement, and about remembrance and souvenir, and about forgetfulness, of course. So an image for me is always a struggle between black and white, the struggle between the plate and me, the plate and the paper, the plate and the ink, and the tools going into the metal of the plate. It's always a struggle. I often say that we're pretty lucky. We always fight for making an image. Fortunately, we do fix the rules. When I win, I stop.
Yeah, yeah. So if you could talk more maybe about that idea of that struggle and that kind of wrestling the image. I'm sort of curious about that idea. Is it you sort of versus the copper? Is it you versus the image? Like who are the players in that struggle?
The main thing in that struggle is the struggle between me and me. In fact, the way I want to decide why I do an image and why I do this image into mezzotint instead of doing a drawing or doing a painting or doing a photograph. So I have to fix this idea in myself before. I never begin mezzotint without knowing exactly what I will do on that plate. Not exactly. Roughly, I know what I will do on that plate. When I think about the image, all the way I rock it. Even if I have some image that took me 2 months to rock, and I knew on the very first movement of my rocker that I had this size, the relation between height and the size of the other fits to one image or one few images from the same city. For me, it's very important. I don't want to do something just because I can. It's the wrong reason. I do something because I want to communicate with the viewers. So I have to define my subject. The subject is never the body by himself, or it's always something, a deeper layer. So for a long time, I worked on the forgetfulness and the souvenir, the remembrance and forgetfulness. So it's the same. Those are two parts of the same medal, two sides. The light is never light without any shadows. White is not light, it's just white. Black is just black if you don't have light.
Yeah.
So there is no deepness into black if there is not a spark of light. So that's my struggle is always into that, and my struggle is also on. Actually, I'm working on my sentence that I start with is the human body is the ultimate landscape. So I make landscape, night landscape, but there's no landscape. It's a human body. So I try to make as less as possible, to work as less as possible, to have not only a line, but almost just a line, and give the impression of mountains and clouds. But if you look at it, after a few minutes, you will probably see a part of a body. And then when you see the body, you see only the body. You don't see anymore the landscape. So, and that's what I'm playing with, the perception of change with when you find the clue that gives you the key.
Yeah, because I think that, and this is something that maybe you've spoken of before, but this idea that the human body can be distorted so much and you can still find the human body in it. And it's an image where, if you were trying to take a vase with some flowers, it doesn't take too much distorting before the vase with some flowers is gone. But the human body is not like that. Like we're so programmed or evolved to, or whatever you want to say, like to find other humans, to find human form, that you can make it almost disappear, but we'll still find like the elbow, the thigh, the neck in the image.
We just need just a little clue, and then you make the whole thing. The viewer will make it perfectly. I've made a large number of prints. My working title was Falling Angels, and all those bodies were falling, and they were disformed, and almost nothing was on those images. Almost nothing on the human body was at the right place. But at the end, when you were looking at the whole thing, you were able to see it anyway. And they were torn. It was I think it was easy to find something corresponding to human sickness or something like that in each of them. So there's nothing in my work. There's nothing spectacular. Everything is related to one viewer at a time in front of it.
Something else that you've said about artistic practice is that the job of the artist is certainly useless, yet so necessary.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that. Yeah.
So it's useless. If I don't work, the world will turn perfectly. If I don't have it, I understand that very well. But if I work, maybe I will help someone to have not a better life, but to feel better in his life, just by creating images. Well, it's useless. The way I'm not a farmer. I don't make food. I'm not saving life. I'm just doing images, which is quite useless, in fact. But it can help people also morally. It can help uh, people to have to be better in their mind, and I think it's necessary. We, we we need that. We are not only human is not, and I think probably more than human, but anyway, uh, human do not need only food, sleep, and water. It needs something a little more. And what I do is that little more. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's important to, and I when I say it's useless but necessary, it's not. I don't want to diminish my job. It's just a fact for me.
Yeah, because it is something that I think people don't really recognize, that how much of what they interact with in their life
Yeah,
that gives it meaning and uh, substance and joy, or just stimulus, is
yeah,
art.
yeah.
Um,
And art is almost everywhere. Uh,
mm-hmm.
and if you take that off, look exactly what happened this year with the pandemic. Art has been taken off almost of everything in the Western world, at least, and it's boring. It's boring. Society is getting mad,
Yeah.
uh, and not only because of art is not there. There's many other reasons, but one of these reasons is the fact that there is nothing to inspire people with no art, no theater, no show, no nothing to get together, nothing to find that we have a common idea of something, and nothing also to shake our spirits, just to make us think a little more. I think that art do not answer. Art ask, makes questions, and people in front of work of art has to find their own answers. They think the art gives them the answer, but in fact, no, the art just help them to think about their own answer. So, and for me, it's the important part of art. I don't make food, but I make art. I made food for the mind of people.
Yeah, because it's such a good, I don't know, I don't know if experiment is the right word, but maybe it's such a good example of people living now. It's They are getting technically their needs met. People can work from home, they're getting food, and have a place to sleep. This is people who are lucky, who have kept jobs and houses during the pandemic. But that's most of the people that I know are in this situation, and so it's like technically they're getting everything they need. But when I call home and I talk to people, because Thailand has just done very well, and I've been extremely lucky and privileged to live more or less normally through almost all of this. But when I call home and I see people who have been have been home for almost 300 days straight, like, you can tell that they're not being fed in other ways.
Yeah,
They aren't, like, their minds and their souls aren't getting that stimulus that they need to be sort of whole, I think. Yeah.
yeah. They need that stimulus to be human. In fact, having food, sleep, water, and a roof under your head, over your head. It's good. It's good. But dogs have them too. Yeah. So I think we need more to be humans, more humanity, more contact with the others, more exchange of ideas. And I think that is the fact that we are all stuck together, stuck alone in our houses, and there's not enough exchange of ideas, exchange of everything. One of the things that is missing for me now, I can't go anywhere. I used to travel a lot. I used to meet other artists, not only printmaker or not only mezzotinters, but other artists, and to have, even if we don't remake the whole word every time, the exchange that we have bring me further in the way I think. So, and I need that. And many artists need that, and it's one of the things that there's a big lack of exchanges in those this world. And having it's nice to have an exchange with the tools that we have now. Fortunately, we have them, computers and everything like this. But if that pandemic happened 25 years ago, it would be a very, very disaster.
Yeah, I mean it's been hard, and it's been very hard for a lot of people, but I think about what people were doing during the Spanish flu, when it was, there was not downloading books or ordering books to your house and watching great sweeping dramas on Netflix that can just totally take your mind off things, and video calling, like we were talking about before, like just being able to see your family, like even if you can't hold them, but like just see their face. It's so it's very hard, but it of course could be harder.
Yeah.
Speaking of travel and the before time when we could do that, have you ever gone to the International Mezzotint Festival in Ekaterinburg?
Yes.
Oh yeah. What year were you there?
I was there last time,
Oh,
last
okay.
one,
Yeah.
and 4 year before. I don't remember exactly. I think it's in 2015, probably 15 and 19. Yeah, and it's a wonderful. I'm jealous. I told them I'm jealous because I didn't have this ID before them. I in the beginning of the 2000, I founded an international biennial here in Trois-Rivières, and I didn't have the ID to make it only for mezzotint at that time. So I'm jealous. It's a wonderful meeting anyway, because the mezzotinters are quite few in the world, in fact, and it's a nice place to see the whole family. Even if it's like a family, in fact. Some people make mezzotint the way I never want to do it. And some people do it the way I will never be able to do it. And some are making it close to my idea of it. But we are all brothers and sisters, and it's very nice to see each other once every 2 years, and that's once every 4 years for me, because I used to not to go every time. I would like to go next time, because the pandemic was too long, and I want to see my family.
Absolutely. Yeah, just so for people who are listening who don't know, the International Mezzotint Festival takes place every 2 years in Ekaterinburg in Russia, and it's put on by, I think, the Ekaterinburg Museum of Art. And it's just, I went in 2017, so we missed each other, but it's it's incredible. You know, I mean, it's two buildings of 4 floors the year that I went of just mezzotints, and they put on such a good show. Nikita, who's the director of the museum there, is a great host and makes sure that, you know, people get good food and drink, and they have banquets, and it's just a really incredible experience to see so many beautiful mezzotints and mezzotint artists in one place. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I do think that you know, in the world of printmaking, I think that sometimes mezzotint artists get the reputation of being a bit introverted compared to the rest of the print world.
Not we are in family.
Yeah, but it's like I didn't see that at all when I was there. Like, and I think it's because everyone was like coming home to family, you know, and it's just a really beautiful experience. And I have no idea if there'll be any way for them to do it this year, because 2021 would be a festival year.
I would like, but not sure, because the pandemic seems to get a little longer than I hope, anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have no news about this year.
We might have to wait until 2023 to do it, but I really hope to have a chance to go back as well, because it was just a great experience for sure. Yeah. So you said that you had started a biennial as well. Is that still going on?
Yeah, it's still going on, but I don't work anymore for it. I worked for 10 years from between 1999 and 2010, and then I had too much work to do with my own work. I had to answer a question one day. Would you like to be a biennial director or an artist? So the answer was an artist. So I stepped out of the organization, and it still works. It's going well. It's perfect. They don't need me.
Well, and is it a printmaking biennial or just art in
Yes,
general?
yes.
Yeah. What's the name of it?
La Biennale internationale d'estampes contemporaines de Trois-Rivières.
All right.
So it's in French.
Yeah.
It's a BIECTR. The short name is BIEC.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I know that people are often looking for more opportunities to show their work and be recognized. So I can put a link in there.
There's many people that I met with the biennial that I met somewhere else in the world, and even the mezzotinters like Mehdi Darvishi, who won the grand prize at the biennial here a few years ago, and Aoife Layton.
Oh yeah.
Came here. Yeah.
She's great. She and I really tore it up at the Mezzotint Festival in 2017.
That was a great experience to create such a big event, and I'm still proud of it anyway. I was proud, and I'm still proud, but at the end, I told you, I had to choose between my own career and to be much more involved into the biennial. So, and I decided to get into my work, and I think it was a good move, because from that time I had a good respect from other artists before 2010, but since 2010, 11, and 12, my work has been recognized and awarded in many places. So I think it was a good move to me to get back to my studio work and create solid work for sending them.
Yeah. Well, was it kind of a tough decision to step away from the biennial and focus on the art, or did it just kind of feel like it was time?
I think it was time. It was beginning to be tough not to be able to give all the time that I wanted to give to my own work. It was anyway a tough decision, but I think it was the best decision. It's one of the best decisions that I've made into my artistic life anyway, to come back to my studio and work hardly and seriously to make my work going further. I think it was the best thing to do. And few months after, I was very happy about that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of that. As you invest in your work, you do get the rewards from it, just having that focus, for sure. Yeah. Well, we're almost just sort of out of time talking about mezzotint and your work and everything. And so before we sign off entirely, can you please tell people where they can find you and see your work and learn more about you and all of that?
Well, if the people want to see my work, the very best place to see it's on the net. Of course, it's on the web. On my Facebook page. They just have to Google my name and you will find my Facebook page. It's Guy Langevin 52. And some art center, but mainly if you look at the catalogs of many biennials around the world, you will probably find some of my work. It's the best place is still on the web. I think you will see a lot of my work, not all, but a lot of my work on the web.
Great. Well, and I'll put a link to your Facebook page and anything else that we and a link to the biennial as well. Just in the sort of the show notes for this, and we'll post some images with your episode on Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for spending an hour with me this evening. It was just delightful to learn more about your work and the history, and to talk mezzotints. I love mezzotints, and I feel like I don't get to talk about them nearly enough. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to meet in person, maybe in Russia.
Maybe I wish.
Yeah.
And thank you for inviting me, for making this podcast. It's very interesting. That, as I said, it's always funny to see that people want to see my work or talk to me from the other end of the world. That's really interesting.
It's the power of an image, you know? It can just fly around the world if it touches people.
Well, that's our show for this week. Join me again next week when my guest will be Lyle Castonguay of Big Ink Prints. We'll talk about bringing big woodcut printmaking to the people, working in collaboration in the time of COVID, and building an arts organization from the ground up. You won't want to miss it. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with editing by Timothy Pauschak and music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you next week.